people are interested in other people. So you can talk about your practice or where you see perhaps the industry going down the road, but from a point of view that is informed and experienced and maybe has a little bit of vulnerability woven in.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today we're kicking off the first of a two-part series with Jess Jensen, who's helped leaders at Microsoft, Qualcomm, and now small business founders across North America build their digital presence. In part one of this two-part series, we unpack the why behind personal storytelling and how it can differentiate you in a sea of sameness. Let's dive into that conversation right now. The co-founder of Copilot Communications, Jess Jensen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
It's great to have you, Jess. And, you've worked with some big brands and now you're working as a co-founder in your own business. I'm sure it's a very interesting journey. Let's tell our listener a little bit about how you ended up doing what you're doing.
Sure. Copilot's a Portland-based advisory. I work with executives and founders to develop a clear and confident voice online, specifically in digital spaces like LinkedIn and podcasting, two of my favorites. But a lot of the work I do now really is steeped in, as you mentioned, this sort of 20-year history that I have inside these fairly large organizations, folks like Adidas, Microsoft, Qualcomm, and Nestle. So I sort of traversed three different industries: consumer packaged goods with Nestle, footwear and apparel, kind of the athletic space with Adidas. And then the last 13 years of my career were really in the tech, both B2B, B2C industry. So all throughout the red line that kind of threaded that career was digital marketing, social media, and executive communication. So always in those roles, just doing it in different verticals.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And I pulled a lot from those experiences. Obviously, in the beginning, before social was really a part of the marketing mix, as you can imagine, the early part of my career, it was kind of more web and email based, but really was in that classic brand marketing communication space for quite a while. And really, it was the last 5 or 6 years I was at Qualcomm that I started to get pulled into these discussions with our C-suite. So helping them as individuals build out a digital platform. And back then it was Twitter and a little bit of LinkedIn. And then we sort of evolved from there as the platforms changed and they got more comfortable. But part of the impetus for building out their individual platforms, in addition to, of course, the corporate brand work that, the blocking and tackling that we do, was we saw a lot of the reach and the engagement plummet. This was back in 16, 17, right? There was just the proliferation of content just kept growing and growing. And so the brand could only do so much. And we recognized that there might be an opportunity to augment the brand work with these individual voices. And we saw over time, we could get as high as 3 times the engagement rate with our CEO, for example, publishing versus the company publishing. So it really became a +1, right? An augmentation to the corporate work from a marketing perspective, and a way to humanize the brand, which for Qualcomm was a really helpful tool because we were a little hard to understand for folks. It was kind of difficult sometimes to grasp, the gravity that Qualcomm brought to the tech industry, and having leaders explain it from their point of view softened and humanized the story.
We'll get back to the interview right after this word from our sponsor. Introducing Dext, the #1 bookkeeping automation platform that makes your life easier. Dext captures your client's data with incredible accuracy and delivers it seamlessly into your workflow, integrating with over 30 accounting softwares. Imagine having more time to focus on what truly matters, like helping your clients, growing your firm, or taking a well-deserved break. With Dext, you can trust the data is accurately extracted, categorized, and submitted every time. What if communicating with your clients could be simple? Your clients can easily send in their records via mobile, email, or drag and drop. With built-in reminders, everyone stays on the same page, eliminating the hassle of endless email chains. Are you ready to streamline your bookkeeping processes? Join thousands of accountants and bookkeepers in the Dext community. Go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com/Dext to book a demo today and see how Dext can make your work life easier. Thank you for hearing from our sponsor. Now let's get back to the interview. Remarkably interesting, actually, because yes, your company, you're talking about yourself, and then that's one thing, and people get tired of that, and then now the people that are in that organ, and also it's not even a human. And now you've got the humans in the company that are now talking about it, telling stories, and you could do that like multiple times with multiple individuals and really create this momentum for a brand in a bunch of different voices, which then if we take that down to a small company, it's like, hey, bookkeeping business company post versus here's my story. This is what we're trying to tell, the story that we're telling from the owner's perspective. And how did that impact? What did you see over the years? Did it change? Did that work for a while? Did it morph? It's very interesting.
Well, it's certainly, like so many new things, when you pilot them, it certainly takes some time to get it off the ground, to generate believers, right, in what you're proposing. But I realized that once I got our CEO on board, then he started to have some fun with it. He started to see the results that it was driving. And it, of course, kind of opened the floodgates, right? Then he started to ask his directs to start to do their own publishing, and they wanted, more support from corporate marketing and comms to help them. So then it became its own program in its own right as a piece of the marketing communications team and effort. But to your point, and this could apply to a smaller company as well, there's the point of view of the founder or the leader or the CEO, what have you. But then there are often many other interesting points of view that come from different angles, whether it's a financial angle, whether it's a business development angle, maybe it's a more technical angle, depending on the construction of your company. But bringing to bear a few different voices and their POVs, it really builds a bit more of a portfolio and, again, shapes the personality of that company in a way that is hard to do with just a brand set of channels.
It's really interesting because, like how much can you say as a company that does bookkeeping, but if you bring the owner into it, you can have all sorts of, it could be story-based, it's experiences, it's what they're seeing in the industry, it's how it's, you could connect it back so many different ways that makes it interesting. And I guess you could think, well, people have blogs, they write articles, but there's a little bit different kind of spin to it, which opens up a lot of opportunity, I think, and maybe could help remove some writer's block for small firms that don't know what they should be talking about as a firm. Like, how do I get my firm out there? This could be an angle. Now, the thought that comes up too is, and you mentioned it, we need you to start talking about the company. What am I going to say? I need help doing it. And also I need, it's like you could have people like, how do you make it relevant and appropriate to say, oh, look, I had a Caesar wrap for lunch and buy Qualcomm,
Yeah. Right. How do you connect dots?
Yeah, right. How do you connect those dots, and keep them human and all that stuff? You must have been busy trying to help everyone do that, because this is not typically a natural thing for people probably to do at that time. I don't think it is even today.
Well, and I think it's a hidden gem. Again, I think about your audience of business owners, bookkeepers, leaders who maybe lean a little bit more toward the introverted side of the scale, I would imagine.
Yes.
And I totally understand. It is scary in the beginning. It's hard to have the courage, let alone even just the framework for, to your point, what am I even talking about? Am I interesting enough for anyone to care what I have to say? I hear that a lot. And the truth is that you are interesting enough because we all bring an origin story. How did you get into the company that you're in? Why did you start this business in the first place? What do you love about it? What's hard for you about it? What are the patterns that you're hearing your clients and customers bring to you? What do you think the future holds? I know AI is discussed daily in every industry, it seems. And you can't
Okay,
get away
yeah,
from it.
exactly. Oh my
And I'm
goodness.
sure
When are we going to be tired about talking about AI or
right.
hearing me talk about AI?
Yes, we all are,
Right?
totally. But
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a whole angle within the bookkeeping space that is thinking about AI and what it might do to help offset costs or augment, headcount, or maybe there's some concern about it, and that's okay to talk about too. But there's so many angles you can come at when you allow for more of your full self to be part
Mhm.
of the story, because again, people are interested in other people.
Mhm.
And so you can talk about your practice or where you see perhaps the industry going down the road, but from a point of view that is informed and experienced and maybe has a little bit of vulnerability woven in.
It's amazing thought, right? It opens up so many different channels, I think, just in this little conversation because I've spoken to so many bookkeepers and thought about this for so long. It's like it does solve a big piece. We talked about AI. You could be talking about AI, but what are the concerns? What are your concerns? What's happening in the world that is, and how does it relate to you, and how does it relate to your own business, and how it relates to your customers and things you're seeing and telling those stories? Like, you could just imagine that we got tariffs. Well, tell a couple stories about how that's impacting some customers and how it's impacting them positively and maybe some customers negatively. AI, pick a lane. We're like at a 250 lane bowling alley here, and there's no shortage. And yet, if you didn't think through this lens right now, you'd think there's nothing to talk about a bookkeeping business, right?
Mhm.
It's just like, what could you say each week? Well, hey, you got to make sure that your financials are accurate. Yeah, you got to make sure that garbage in, garbage out. You got to make sure you're filing on time. Like, that stuff everyone's heard, but you mix that with what you're talking about. Wow, people get interested. It's personalized. It's interesting. You get known.
Yeah. And I think that, again, another hurdle psychologically that I hear from people is I don't want to go out there and just sort of be famous to be famous. Like this feels very self-serving. What's the point? And again, if you're a business owner, you are the face of that business. And yes, they're hiring you for your expertise and your skill set. But let's be honest, and my profession included, there's very few, if not any, people who are doing something so unique they have zero competition. There might be a handful in history we could name, but for the most part, we all have other folks that are doing pretty similar things and doing them well. So how do you
That's right.
differentiate? Right. And this is the core of any marketer. This is like 101, right? How do you differentiate? Because differences sell, similarities don't. So you differentiate by pulling more of yourself into the marketing of your business because you are the differentiator.
Yes. Say that little quote again. It's the
Differences sell, similarities don't.
Okay, good. Yes. So you're pulling in the different. So right there in the is I joked about it, but Caesar wrap by Qualcomm. It's like it does differentiate you. You would be definitely differentiated if you put that post out as a direct report to the CEO of Qualcomm. But if it was done, in a tasteful way, That's a pun. If it was done in a tasteful way, it would be differentiate. You're differentiating a conversation or an idea and linking it back to your business. And that you don't even really have to do much other than just share your own personal experiences and your perspective linked to your business. And you've differentiated. So people get to know. We're just literally having a podcast episode today where we talked about and how important it is to differentiate your business when you're pricing.
Yes.
Well, here is a strategy in this episode to actually do that in a really fun, not easy way. I wouldn't say that, because you've already outlined a lot of the barriers people have about even doing this. What am I going to say? Even though we gave them a bunch of ideas, doesn't mean that, there's still fear. It's like, what if my writing is no good? What if people don't like it? Imposter syndrome jumps up and down on your desk and with a hammer smashes your screen. And so, but yet this is a really exciting opportunity, I think.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, I think so too. That's why I made a business about it. But I do recognize that there are folks, and I understand, I'm this way too, that would appreciate a little bit more framing, a little bit more of a structure. So if you are interested, I could share a few of the steps that I walk my clients
Yes, please
through.
do.
Okay. So we are, like you said, we already talked about a few ideas just sort of off the cuff of things you could discuss. But one of the things that you want to start with whenever you go about building a digital presence is have a little bit of the roadmap, right? Have a plan. So the first thing that I often work with my clients on is defining their audience of one. So this is often a whole discussion unto itself, because number one, most of us have multiple audiences that we're trying to speak to or attract as future customers or clients. So it's a discipline to say, I just want you to pick one of those. And obviously it's going to be your number one, your most important audience. And then I want to spend some time, and again, this is kind of fundamental marketing work, defining their persona, it's kind of often now it's called their avatar, which I'm not sure how I feel about using that term for it, but it's the same idea as a target audience or a persona. So what does this person care about? What are they challenged with? Where do they live? What do they do outside of work? What kinds of articles or publications or blogs do they read? Really flesh out as much as you can, what you believe to be true about that number one target audience. And the reason being that from here on out, when you create your content, whether it's this format where I'm doing, an interview in an audio or video form, or it's the written word on a LinkedIn or a blog or whatever, your website, whatever the medium is, you have that persona, you have that target audience front and center, and you're writing or you're speaking for them. So that's step one.
Step one. It's beautiful. Now, I do have a question about that step, because it did come up, and this is a little bit personal question as well, is often, and maybe personal question from like a social media perspective, because if you're writing on a brand, if people are involved in they do multiple things, right? Like a business owner that has multiple brands. We have the podcast, we have other businesses that we run. And if you go to my LinkedIn page, it's like, a buffet of things that we're doing. And there is a hub, and these are spokes. But how do you manage that from like a conversation of like, okay, and maybe I should book a consultation with you and we can discuss it there. That's probably a good idea. But do you get what I'm saying? It's like you're trying to get to one, but what if there's more than one?
Yeah. Audience, right. You've probably got multiple products and multiple audiences and multiple lines of business, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that definitely is a longer discussion, but we would get to a point where we prioritized. And the goal here, I used to use the term peanut butter. We don't want a peanut butter. We don't want to sort of spread ourselves so thin across so many audiences, so many platforms that really we're never actually going very deep. We're never actually.
Right. So pick one. Yeah. So you answered my question before I asked it, but you helped me get it emotionally.
Yeah.
So that was a little gift to me. Thank you, audience, for allowing me to help solve one of my own problems. But let's get to number 2, because that was a good one. So we have to have one. What do they do? What do they eat for breakfast? What do they read? Where do they go? Mm-hmm. You got to channel this person.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and give them a name, right? Give them a name, maybe find a picture online, make a little document, right, for yourself. This is my target audience of 1. So you really have them in your mind as you create content. Number 2, and this gets into some of the psychology, which is sort of the fun part of this work, where, business and sales and revenue really meet kind of emotion and psychology and sort of the cognitive side of things. We need to clarify what we want to stand for. So this obviously should be connected to whatever your business or division or responsibility set is, but it shouldn't be 100% that. Because again, we go back, companies can talk all day and all night about product launches and big events or, a new hire or growth. It's fine. It's going to obviously be a piece of what we discuss if we're running a business or a division. But if it's all of what we discuss, that's not going to build relationship. It's not going to build trust. It's not going to ultimately garner us followership, which therefore gives us the influence to scale and grow our business down the road. So often I work with my clients to build what we call a narrative platform, which is really a fancy way of saying 3 themes, right? 3 topics that we really want to repeatedly come back to again and again across all of our mediums. So one of them may be, for example, again, the futurist in you, where you see your bookkeeping practice going, the industry going down the road, maybe how it docks into bigger financial discussions that are happening. You mentioned tariffs earlier. That's a very hot topic. So it could be more you forecasting or hypothesizing where you think your industry is headed, because that shows that you have a point of view, shows that you're informed, and it also gives people something to sort of chew on and think about. So that could be one, for example. Another one could be something that's dear to you that's outside of your day-to-day work. It could be a nonprofit, a charity, a social cause, something that probably comes from some other part of your life, maybe connected to family, pets, where you grew up, the environment, whatever that might be. Most of us have something like that is meaningful. And so it's a great idea to talk about your activity, your energy, what you're reading, who you're following that's in that sort of space, because that rounds you out as a human outside of just being a business owner, right? And then another one that I love is, and especially this is relevant for, again, small business owners, is pro tips, right? We forget how much we know. And even the conversation that we're having right now, there's probably some things I'm sharing that maybe it's the first or second time that you've heard it. And I would guarantee if we flipped, there'd be a lot you'd share with me that might be the first or second time I've heard it. I'm not an expert in bookkeeping, and I know that I could stand to learn a lot from experts in that field. So to me, sharing those pro tips, those best practices, kind of maybe learnings that you've had along the way and how you've now sort of superseded and overcome them, those are really lovely stories and takeaways that are educational and stick with people. Mm. So that's just an example of what a narrative platform could look like.
Wow, I love it. So futurist, cause, and the pro tips. Love it.
Yeah. So once you really identify what are those kind of three to four territories, and we spend some time with the language around that, and those feel really germane to you, right? These are values that are meaningful to me. These are aspects of my life that I could go back to and talk about again and again and again, because you want to beat that drum over time. Then we put that down on paper, right? Like, here's your narrative platform. Now we have your target audience. Okay, we're going to add those things together. Now in step 3, we're really going to start to iterate and practice creating content. And we'd pick a platform that ideally you already spend a little bit of time on. So you already have some level of comfort, right? No good trying to throw you in the deep end on a platform that you don't spend time on or you don't really understand how it works. Let's go where you're comfortable. And once again, let's do one thing really well first, and let's start to really pump the content creation engine and look at the feedback, right? This is the iteration experimentation phase. Am I getting a better engagement at certain times of the day? Is there a body of people that continue to keep commenting on the things that I'm publishing? They seem pretty interested in what I have to say. Are there things that just aren't landing at all? It's just crickets. I'm not getting it. And why? Why do I think? And you only get that feedback when you do it again and again and again. You need a sample size, right? So that's that step 3 is allowing your voice, your personality, and the humanity behind your business to really come through in the content you're creating, and then start to watch and see the feedback that you're getting and sharpen your saw, right? Iterate as you go. And then lastly, and often this is the last step, but frankly, it's one that many people start with because it feels like a lower lift. So you could thread this through your entire approach. There's this saying that relationships are built in the comments. Yeah. And that's true for, again, social platforms, but certainly, any digital forum where people are allowed to comment, YouTube videos, blog posts, right? Most digital forums, even the reviews that are left on a podcast, the ability to go in and be able to reply, whether it's through a DM, a private message, or whether it's publicly in the feed, it shows a few things. One, it shows that you're there to actually build a relationship. You're there to respond. You're listening. And that in and of itself is a signal of care and effort and intention. And people pick up on that. Nobody wants to follow someone that is just publishing one way and walking away, right? It doesn't feel like a conversation. It doesn't feel like a relationship.
It does not. No. So far, it's been a really great conversation with Jess. In part 2, she takes us behind the curtain with her 4-step playbook used with top executives to help you show up online with clarity and confidence. That's coming next, and trust me, it's one you don't want to miss. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.